Hey, Costa Mesa, it's a big year for the Costa Mesa Historic Society, celebrating 60 years of collecting, protecting, and preserving Costa Mesa's heritage and history. In honor of the big celebration, we're bringing you a very special historic property tour. In fact, one of Costa Mesa's very few remaining historic landmarks, built in 1928 in all the splendor and glory of the Spanish Colonial Revival movement of the 1920s. We have First Methodist Church. We'll be doing a tour today with Pastor Matt to learn more about the preservation efforts along with the history. Welcome to our vintage home tour.
I'm Reverend Matthew Hambrick. Welcome to the home of Costa Mesa First United Methodist Church. The history of this church begins all the way back in 1888 when Methodists tried to start a church in the community called Fairview. Unfortunately, there was a major storm in 1889 that washed out the railroad tracks, and that community all of a sudden no longer existed. They actually had an issue where they had their original building there, and because it was empty for so long, it filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of bees. They had a beekeeper come in. He said there's too many, it's extremely dangerous, and so they pulled out honey in wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow and then let the bees just have it. Fast forward to 1911, and people began to gather down at Whittier and 19th Street and tried to start another community at that point. It wasn't until 1915 that they built our original building here in that space between Newport and Harbor on 19th Street. So in 1928, they decided to build this building because our membership had grown from our original 8 charter members in 1911 to 193 members at that time and needed a larger worship space. Having been a central part of Costa Mesa for all of these years, our church is a historical landmark being designated with the marker out front. This marker was given by the Costa Mesa Historical Society, and you will find them all around Newport Boulevard. So this is our prayer labyrinth that was put in by our artist in residence, Doug Nason. It was done in paint as opposed to maybe in a more rural environment. We would have done it with stones or wood or brick or something like that. But because it started as a church that was in a more rural environment, the church around Goat Hill, but now it's an urban environment. It's done with paint and with string and measurements out here, and it blends right into the urban environment that we have here. So today, when you look around this church environment, you will see businesses and condos and Triangle Square, a large shopping center. But back in 1928, when it was first built, this was a wide open space. You would have been able to see this tower from miles around. Our most iconic architectural feature is our tower. It's 5 stories, and there are multiple levels where there used to be Sunday school classes. All the way back into the 30s and 40s, we had elementary students meeting by age level in each of the stories of the tower. On the bottom level, it was, say, kindergarten and first grade, then one level up, 2nd and 3rd grade, and then at the top level, 4th and 5th graders. And we have a member of our church who went to Sunday school in that tower all the way back in the 40s. This room full of former Vacation Bible School equipment, books, Christmas trees, and all the various things that exist in the church, it's hard to imagine that this would have been about a first grade or second grade Sunday school class 60 years ago. It's still possible to access the bell tower by these very narrow, rickety stairs that are the original, but we can still make it up to the top. At the top of the tower, there still are bells that chime 4 times an hour. Once upon a time, it was an actual bell. Right now, it's digital, and it runs through a speaker. Our building was dedicated in 1928. When the bishop came to visit, it was said that he responded to it that there wasn't a more worshipful space in all of our conference area. The features of this building, it's built in this beautiful Spanish style. It was a very costly project to build this sanctuary on this space. This part of the project cost $28,000 in a time when the average laborer would make about 50 cents an hour. It's important to us to maintain our connection to the history of this church. As you walk into this building, we have a display of historical photos from pictures from this building being built, which was built by the hands of many parishioners. Even though it cost so much, a lot of the labor was donated. And we have pictures of our former choir members. We have pictures of former pastors, and there's a legacy that continues even today. When I became the pastor here in 2021, one of the first people I met when I walked into this space, his name was Dave Reed. And Dave Reed had been a member of this church since he was a child. And he was quick to tell me that his grandfather, who was the pastor of this church in 1914, was one of the people honored at the front of the church on our choir screen, letting us know that he was one of our earliest pastors of 1914. His grandfather was a pastor so long ago that he didn't even know him. Unfortunately, David's passed, but we have a Bible dedicated to him and his family that was passed down through those generations. So we go back all the way over 100 years ago. In a church like ours that has such a long and faithful history, we want to not just honor that tradition, but remember it as being a part of our own tradition. We have this sign hung up as a piece of art. It is a sign that was on the outside of the church sharing the times of our Sunday school, our worship services, and our prayer services. It's a reminder of those first people who worshiped in this building. Spanish architecture seemed to be in vogue in the 20s here in Southern California, and our church is no different. We have these archways that run the length of the sanctuary, and actually a very large archway over the chancel itself, under which the choir would have stood. Almost everything you see is original to that 1928 intention and design. From the pulpits, the pews, the baptismal. In fact, the table that is just in front of the liturgist's pulpit, that table was built from our original front door. This is that original door from the front of the church. We kept it because how do you throw away something that's 100 years old? The pastor who came before me, Reverend Sarah Heath, she took this into her wood shop and turned it into this table you see before you, and it was used for many years to serve communion. Up there you'll see that there are some organ pipes. These are actually all the organ pipes that we have left. Since this church functions with piano and with a band, the organ was no longer needed, and we pulled it out to create spaces where the pipes used to be. Through this door here is where the antiphonal organ pipes were. That's a big word that means the pipes at the back of the church for the organ. But this church building doesn't have a lot of space, so when we removed the organ, we removed the pipes and turned it into a room where we can have small groups, game nights, different gatherings, maybe a book group. There are all kinds of options that were not here when it was filled with pipes. Walking into the sanctuary, you will see that there is stained glass all around, that there were families in each of these windows. They donated money at the time of the construction so that they could, first of all, create a beautiful space for worship, but second, to honor family members who may have passed or just that they wanted to lift up in honor. We continued that theme of stained glass as time went on, as we made changes. The stained glass window with Jesus in the narthex of the church is newer than the construction of the building. And then the stained glass up behind the altar on the chancel was put in probably somewhere in the mid to late 60s. This is our rose window. It is an original feature of this building. It can be seen from across the way at Triangle Square. It can be seen from ground level, but best of all, it can be seen from down below from where I'm preaching. And I can always remember to look up and see this dove, which represents the Holy Spirit. And anyone who sees it can remember that God is always with us in that power of the Holy Spirit. As a pastor, it is a special experience to preach in this space. There's so much gravitas. There's so much of an attempt of those first parishioners. You can feel that they wanted to provide an experience for generations where people could feel God's presence, they could connect to one another, and it remains today. So when I preach here, the acoustics are beautiful, the visuals are beautiful, the sunlight coming in is beautiful, and the space, even with a busy city, feels quiet and lovely. To know what happened in the past helps us to know who we are today. I sometimes tell my congregation when I'm preaching, if you hear me say something new, you should be suspicious. When we know our history, we can know where we're trying to go. Thank you so much for being with us at Costa Mesa First United Methodist Church for this historical tour. Our doors are open to you, and we hope to see you again real soon.
Thank you so much for your continued support of the Costa Mesa Historic Society's preservation efforts. Every year I produce an annual Historicums calendar that can be bought at the Historical Society and also at the famous Salty Horse. Be sure and pop in and get one today. Thank you for joining us.